You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. I am here with Anna again this week, although the status of Paul's existence is currently under question, but we'll see if he pops up at some point or another. But I know that. Sorry, I make fun, but I know he's got a bunch of stuff on his hands right now, so I'm not trying to make it sound like he just completely vanished. But we just don't know when he'll be back. So that speaks for Paul. How are you doing, Anna?
I'm doing great. You know, I was going about my routine, waking up and doing my day and going to bed, and I was thinking it's almost as if I was living in a simulation. You ever felt that way?
Nope.
Or I'm just trying to lead into this episode ever so smoothly. It could be that.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, number one, yeah, I kind of saw that coming a mile away, but on the other hand, we already did an episode about simulation theory. I didn't want to have to go through that again.
It was a good episode. If anybody hasn't heard it, go back and have a listen.
Was it? I actually don't even remember much about it.
Oh, they're all good episodes. I sort of generically say that about every single one of them. I'm not going to, that one was shitty. No, guys, just don't.
Come on, be honest.
You're going to edit around so I say that at a different time now, aren't you?
I reserve the right. So yeah, while Paul's away, this is a good opportunity to talk about games that Paul would never talk about, since he kind of really only ever plays adventure games, so we can never talk about anything other than adventure games when he's around. So, and of course, last week we talked about an adventure game, but now we actually decided to go right off the rails here and talk about something completely different. Anna, what are we talking about this week?
We are going to dig deep into the wild world of SimCity today.
Yes. When was the first time you played SimCity?
First time I ever played SimCity would probably have been, it probably would have been around 94, right before I took a little bit of a break from video games.
Right.
I remember the first thing I always did when playing it was I'd always turn the disasters off. Because I just can't handle that.
Was this the original SimCity, or was this, yeah? Okay.
That was the original SimCity, yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, I remember very soon after it came out, maybe within the year, I don't remember exactly what drew me to the game. I can't remember really the very first time I played it. I just remember that I really was so obsessed with it for a bit that I asked for my friends to get it for me for my birthday, and they did, and it was like the greatest birthday ever.
Oh, man.
But I can't remember any time before that I played it. I just somehow just wanted it. I can't remember if I played it at anyone else's, when playing with friends after school or something like that. It was just a game that existed, and I wanted it, and I got it, and man, that was it lived up.
It really did. I got mine from Staples. It was in one of those, the big bins that they used to have with games in it. Yeah, it was one of those, and it was just like super random. And my dad's like, yeah, make a city. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I was hooked.
Yeah, I remember those. We had before Staples, we had Office Depot. Do you remember those?
Totally.
Yeah, and I got so many Slash games from their bin. Which I didn't think about at the time, but they were totally Slash games now that I know what a Slash game is.
Yeah. Well, I guess they must have been. I never even clued into that. Because, yeah, it's like $2.99. I remember this game is $60. All right, yeah. Cool.
It wasn't just Overstock.
And remember the racks with just the CDs, and they were all cellophane wrapped just in the jewel cases, and you could pick through, and it would have like games, programs, and educational games and stuff in them.
They probably still have that at London Drugs or something.
London Drugs still is the only place I know as far as like bigger drug stores and department stores that actually has a few PC games remaining. And you can get like McAfee's security or Norton, but it's in its little, small box. So I love that.
Little productivity software. Even EB Games doesn't really have much in the way of PC games.
Which is funny because, like, do you guys not remember where you came from?
I don't know who's to blame, though, because, there is a lot of digital going on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, unless you're going in there to buy a Steam card, what else are you going to do? It's like, unless they're hooked up, like, what is that company that does the remakes of the big box games? No, not Double Fine. They go out and they do all the big boxes now, and they're contracted out, and then they bring them out into game stores.
Oh.
Anyway.
I don't know. But,
anyway. So you can still get big boxes is my point. I mean, it is possible.
Right. Speaking of big boxes, I actually don't remember now which SimCity box I had, but it's quite famous amongst collectors now that there was the original version of SimCity that had Godzilla on the cover. And they had to pull that down for obvious reasons that they aren't allowed to use Godzilla. I don't think, obviously it was just kind of not Godzilla, but it was close enough that Godzilla people were like, don't do that. And apparently they had a case for it. So they're like, okay, here's a tornado. Okay, that's cool. So I don't know which one I had back then. It was one of the boxes that was the casualty of the great cleanup of 99 or something. Oh man, no, actually not even. Probably a little bit later than that, when I just like got rid of all of my computer games. It was a huge, it was a dark day. But I have since re-procured SimCity since I've been collecting in the last few years. And I actually did manage to get the Godzilla copy.
Oh, score.
So, yeah. So I never really expected that. I just wanted any SimCity, but I'm really happy to have found the Godzilla copy.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Isn't it like, I don't know, it's a tornado or something in the other one. It's like when it ravages the city. I don't think I've ever even had the big box for the first one when I picked it up on discount. I think it was, I don't know, just in a jewel case or something. But I still have the big box for SimCity 2000.
Mm-hmm. And funny enough, SimCity 4 is one of the games that is very, very easy to find at local thrift stores.
But it looks so cool on the cover.
I'm sure it's
copies.
Awesome. I'm sure it's great. I 3D. Yeah, I just never got around to playing it, and I'm just sick of seeing it because it's the only thing that sort of goes around. And it's a cool find the first time you find it. Mm-hmm. And now it's a sort of, okay. It's funny because the guy who did SimCity is the guy who did Spore, which is like the #1 thrift store find.
Oh man, I gotta post pictures in Classic Gamers Guild of how many copies of that game I've seen in used stores, all stacked up together. Rick, you are so right.
we need to do like a scavenger hunt where everyone has to on one day everyone has to go out and take pictures of all the copies of Spore they can find, and whoever has the most will win. I don't know, a thumbs up on their post.
Exactly. Hey, but true to their name, man. I tell you, they keep compiling them together in a big stack, but I'll look and I'll be like, you missed one right there.
Oh man. I'll tell you something. The one thing that didn't really occur to me at the time, but one thing that SimCity did that it was kind of, I'm sure it wasn't the first, but one thing it did really quite popularly is that there's no way to win or lose SimCity. It just keeps going on for as long as you want to play it. You can do poorly and you can do well, but it doesn't actually end. I am pretty sure I blame my insomnia, which continues on to this day, based on the fact that my body had adjusted to so many nights of not sleeping because of SimCity. Even my brother, who was like, he played games. He wasn't nearly as much of a gamer as I was, but he back when we were younger, of course, we played games. And he, I remember one morning he came out to me and sort of like, I never really understood why SimCity was fun. I never understood why you liked it so much, but I just started playing it. Before I knew it, I heard the birds singing.
Time to wake up. What? Wake up? Jeez.
And I can't even explain it myself either, but there's just something so addictive about it. I haven't played the classic in a really long time, but back then it was great. And even after that, the SimCity that came out for Super Nintendo was also really good. And I played that a lot with my friend back in the day as well. Because normally a PC to console port, they're not always the best, but it really kind of it made it its own. It was actually a little bit advanced compared to the original. And it was just as good or great, or maybe even better if you want to look at it objectively.
That's interesting to hear. I have 2 copies of that game for the Super Nintendo. I've never played either of them, but I have them. They're sitting in my living room, so maybe I should check it out one of these days. I didn't buy either of them. It's like, why do I have one? I don't know. Why do I have 2? I assuredly do not know.
There seems to be some... any game made by Will Wright has a tendency to multiply in physical copies.
Oh, it's true. I don't know how many copies of some of his games we have. It's like this one, but only the jewel case. Yeah, but this one in the big box. This one's loose jewel case. It's in an envelope, just the CD. Oh, okay. But they're all the same game? Yeah, they're all the same game.
So which came first? Did you play SimCity or did you come across Sim in Space Quest 4?
Space Quest 4.
Did it? Was it really?
It would have been, I think this would have come just after that. So, yeah, for sure. Space Quest 4 was my first Space Quest game.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm curious. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is about these kind of games. I mean, obviously it's not unusual at this point because there are tons of games that are just sort of like simulation and, management games that just like really takes everything by storm. I remember, going into a computer store. Remember when there were actually like computer stores?
Yeah, oh God, so much so. I feel nostalgic just talking about it.
I can't remember which one. Maybe it was like Egghead or something like that. And, they would always have a computer on display with a game installed on it. And that's where I played the successor to SimCity, which was Sim Earth. And I didn't really get too far into playing that game, but that just even the demo, like it wasn't a demo version, but I played it on a demo for like 15 minutes, and that just blew my mind. And sadly, I couldn't actually get to play it because when I did borrow a copy of it from a friend, it was unable to run on my Hercules monochrome with no hard drive back in the day.
Oh man, I remember when we upgraded our hard drive to 20 megabytes. It was like such a good day. Oh
man, I can only imagine. But again, just to touch briefly on Sim Earth before I get too off topic here, but when I borrowed it from a friend, it comes with like this thick manual, right? Like it's you can take a course on the manual to this game, basically.
Well, this was supposed to be the most beautiful game that had ever come out. Like, as far as it had been hyped to me, it was just supposed to be absolutely magnificent, which it was. And back in the day when, like, if you can't play a game, you just read the manual over and over again. Yep.
Yeah. So
exactly.
I actually got to the point where, like, there was a girl in my class. I think this was grade 7 or something like that. And she actually owned the game, and she actually had it installed on her computer. And she actually, I knew how to play the game better than she did, because I just sat there, unable to play it. So I just read the manual over and over again, where she would always actually try to play the game, and she didn't know how.
And she didn't know how. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a complex game. I mean, you got a lot of windows going on. It was sort of like, it was right around the time where I think he did Sim Ant. I correct me if I'm wrong on timeline, or don't, or you guys can that are listening. But as far as I can recall the layout, you had to like open up all these different windows and have everything going on. But it was really colorful and really beautiful. but it reminds me of it.
Yeah, Cement is another. Sorry, I guess we're talking a lot about different sim games at this point, but we'll get back to SimCity. Don't worry. Cement apparently is a lot more popular than I ever expected it to be.
I didn't think people would even have heard of it because it seemed like, to me as a kid, I thought it was kind of obscure.
Yeah, exactly. I totally thought that no one would even know what I was talking about. But I think more people know about Cement than they know about Sim Life.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it hasn't held its value in that you would think it wasn't quite as popular. But so many people I've talked to online are like, "Oh yeah, I totally played that. It's hard. Watch out for that spider mofo."
Yeah, I mean, I really hope one of these days I can talk more in depth about Sim Earth and Sim Life. Except I never actually played Sim Life, even though I own like several copies of it.
Several copies again?
Yes. It happened. It keeps happening. I actually did deliberately track down a copy of the big box because that was one that I just really wanted for some reason. And then I think I came across the CD. I think the CD was gifted to me because I didn't have any way of playing the floppies. Oh, yeah. And then I think I came across the CD again in a thrift store shortly after. And there may or may not have been some difficulties installing it, so I acquired a digital copy, which is not actually legal, so don't do that.
Don't do that. I mean, it's only done if necessary. And I mean, once you own 3 copies, what are the rules then? Yeah.
I think I can allow myself ethically.
So do you leave disasters on going back to SimCity?
SimCity, oh man, you have to do... Or sorry, kind of.
Kind of.
Number one, there's 2 points to make on this. I can't play that game fairly, so I always have to do the fund trick. But every time you do that, you get the earthquakes, no matter what. You can do whatever settings you want. It doesn't care. You type fund, you get an earthquake each time you do it. So what I would do, the first thing as soon as I start a game, I would just type fund as many times as it would let the world shake for a bit while there's nothing there to actually destroy. And then I get to start.
Yeah, this is a game that was pretty much meant to be cheated with. I mean, any of his games, really. They're meant to have cheats happen.
Yeah. Second point, though, is kind of, how I said that there was no real end game to SimCity? It's basically self-motivated goals. And my self-motivated goal was to build an impressive enough city upon which to unleash disasters.
Yes, that's the whole point. You don't turn them on until you're ready.
I don't remember if I did or didn't, to be honest. I think it's really? I very well could have. I could have just turned it off because it was easy. And then just been like, okay, now you get a monster or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now I will have wrath descend on all of you.
Actually, my favorite was Plane Crash. For some reason, I just love Plane Crash the most.
Yeah, that one's awesome. I've had so many dreams about plane crashes. Yeah. I die in most of them, too.
That's not good.
Yeah, I do it all the time. It's really weird. Anyway.
No, it's weird. I remember, was it an urban myth or just a rumor or whatever you would classify it as? But I remember growing up when people would say that if you die in your dreams, you die in real life.
I believed that until I started dying, and then I was like, damn. But it really feels like it. Like, your life will flash before your eyes. You'll get a realization. Like, the world will go tunnel and dark. It's, you do die, I guess. Weird.
I did die once in a dream, but it was not like that. It was more just sort of like, I died, and then I was there lying down for a minute thinking, oh, I'm dead. And then I woke up.
Well, yeah, it might be like that, too. You never know.
Is that what dying is like? He's lying there for a while being, oh, I'm dead?
Oh, I'm dead. Well, shit. And then eventually you just get bored of that and then you're like, dead? Yes, there's philosophy here too, folks. We've got it all.
If we can consider that philosophical. Let's be honest here.
Considering we're gamers, that's good enough. But actually, you have to think about a little bit about your philosophies on government. You have to think, outside of being philosophical. But there's an awful lot of thinking? Now, you say this wasn't something that you were super good at, playing these games. So what strategy did you use to build up your city sufficiently that worked well for you?
Okay, the best achievement of SimCity that I ever got was playing the Super Nintendo version, because that one they actually, I can't remember. Oh man, it's been so long since I played Classic that I can't remember exactly how they did it. But in the Super Nintendo version, it'd be a little bit of an event each time your city grew in size to upgrade its classification.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from, I think, like town to city to like metropolis. So the highest status of a city you could get is megalopolis.
Right.
And so that was the one which I remember was like kind of like the ultimate achievement in Super Nintendo. And the reason and the strategy I used on in order to get that was by letting my friend play.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is better at games than I am. So I just
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. So I was just sort of like, that's just kind of how gaming went between me and my buddy. Unless it was like couch co-op in a story mode, I'd just be like, you play. And that's why he is far better at games than I am today.
Yeah, it's just easier. Man, if I'd have known people that played games when I was growing up, I'd be such a poser. Because I'd just be like, I'd watch them all play the games and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that game. But, as y'all maybe know by now, I didn't really know people growing up that played these games outside of my dad. And so get some pretty cool stories from you on that, Rick.
They're technically my buddy's stories, to be honest.
You stole those too, damn it.
One thing that is really cool, I never actually played this one, but I did see it roll through in the used computer store that I worked at in the late 90s, is that there's a SimCopter in which you can fly a helicopter throughout your SimCity 2000 map.
Really? So it's like an add-on?
I think it's its own game, but that they can actually just sort of import the map from your SimCity 2000.
What is this magic?
Mm-hmm. I never got around to it because at that point I sort of like, that sounds really cool, but I'm not going to do it. But it did. That was pretty a mind-blowing concept at that time, like in the 90s, to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's mind-blowing to me right now. I know, and here we have the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's like, no, you're flying over the real thing. But
yeah,
I'm not that advanced quite yet.
But you played SimCity Classic and SimCity 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a preference?
Yeah, SimCity 2000.
Yeah,
right. That's my go-to game.
I think definitely at this point it has aged the best. Like I don't think SimCity Classic it was probably just a little bit too simple at this point. SimCity 2000 was like the perfect mix of complex and still pretty entertaining, even if you play it today. I prefer
it to the top down. I like it. It's like got that isometric perspective, and you can really, like, it's kind of annoying because, like, there's one little feature that's in a lot of the newer games that's not in this game, which is just if you pull your mouse over to the side, it'll just scroll over there. You have to actually use the scroller bar on the bottom, to move where you are. Right. But a lot of the older games I play are still like that. But I like how it's not all 3D. It's beautifully pixelated.
Yes.
The art is gorgeous. They didn't try to make everything all round and shiny like with the newer games, so.
Is that what they do? Actually, that's a good question. How far into the series did you actually make it? Because I stopped at 2000.
Once you get there, you won the game as far as I'm concerned. Why would you have to keep going? You're in the future, man. Like, you're there.
Like, did you play?
Is there?
Did you play 3000 or SimCity 4 or did they reboot it entirely at one point or something? Like they just called it SimCity?
Yeah, I have this thing. Okay, for one, I've played the SimCity 3000 because it was on GOG, and I wasn't a huge fan. And then I have this thing. It's called SimCities, and it's like this 3D.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it's representation, but it is so 3D and blocky and chunky, and a lot of these games came right out at the time where they were really fussy about copyright stuff. So oftentimes, now I don't know if this is one of them, but a lot of the games in that era are like, oh, somebody else has already played that, or it's a really fussy time. I don't like it, but I own it because, well, you should. It's in one of the PC DVD style cases.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my thoughts are all over the place because I'm just like kind of finding out a lot of stuff for the first time here. I just discovered, yeah, bear with us. You know, this is how it gets with me. I have no focus. But I was looking up Simcopter and I found out that there was another game called Streets of SimCity where you drive through your SimCity 2000 map. Yeah.
You've blown my mind twice in one episode,
I gotta find these now. I must.
Awesome.
A driving game where you drive through SimCity 2000?
I really, really want that. Yeah, the game's beautiful. You know, I just got the SimCity 2000 Strategies and Secrets Guide Special Edition for the first time ever. I've never had it before. And you know what I like about this is not only does it have your hints, tips, and tricks to play the game, but it actually gives you your Easter eggs and your cheats and all those other little bits and pieces too. So I think that's fun. I think a game like this taught us a lot growing up. I mean, about running a city. It got me into other games.
Politics?
Politics, like caring a little bit about it. Like, I'm not the kind of kid, like, I wasn't in school by the time I was playing these games, right? So this is where all my learning happened.
Yeah. It inspired you to pursue your career to become mayor of Victoria?
Yeah, I did name my city in SimCity 2000 Victoria, and I am indeed the mayor. So, yes.
Yeah. I honestly don't really know what much left is to say about this game. It was just good, and it was just, you know, it was awesome. Like, it's such a complex game for all the stuff you can do, and for you know, all the different ways you can play it, and everything you can do in the game, even in like the original SimCity, and it only just gets more and more elaborate and complex from there.
Yeah, and you realize things like how expensive terraforming is. You're like, damn, where'd all my money go? I just like moved a few tiles up and down. It's like, oh no, now you're broke.
I remember, I can't remember if it was in the first one, but I know it was definitely in 2000, where you gotta like bulldoze trees in order to build. And it like I think it was in both of them actually, now that I think of it. And like costs you money to tear down these trees. I'm like, you know, we live in Canada, so we're just kind of like, are you just tearing down those trees and throwing them away? Like, lumber's worth a lot. You know?
Exactly. Shouldn't I get some recoup back on this?
Yeah, we should be making money for all the trees that we're tearing down. Like, that's a huge industry.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but now I'm going to. Every time I like have to do that, I'm going to yell at the game. Throwing away trees? Crazy people. But yeah, like, you could lose the game, right? I mean, just because you couldn't win the game doesn't mean you couldn't lose the game. Well,
there was no official game over screen, is what I mean. You could lose because you're broke and you can't do anything, and your city has burned down.
You have nothing. Do you want to keep watching this terribleness happen? Or do you want to quit and try again? Because you can sit here and keep watching this shit.
SimCity 2020.
Yep. Yeah, that would be mine after I'm done with it. Every time. I don't think there's ever a city I've ever had that I haven't destroyed when I'm done with it. Because, well, what else are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm. I wonder if the next SimCity game will have Pandemic as a disaster.
Exactly.
That'll probably piss off a lot of people.
Starts off slow, but then goes real quick. But yeah, I think Will Wright set me up for sim games in general, because he gave me all of these. You know, he gave me the Sims games, which I still play. I played Sims 1, 2, 3, and 4. And, you know, what are you doing in that game? And I remember my dad made fun of me. He's like, oh, look at you playing a game doing exactly what you're doing when you're not playing the game.
Yeah. Before The Sims, they did that with Sims Online. I'm pretty sure Sims Online came first before they did The Sims. Whatever happens to be, I remember reading about Sims Online, and it's like, you get to go out and meet people and talk to people. I'm like, why would I not just do that?
Actually, that's my least favorite part, the social stuff. Like, I suck at making friends in those games, so I like cheat to turn that off if I can, and I spend all my time doing exactly what I do at home. I read, I research, I get really good at cooking, and in Sims 4, eventually I buy a rocket ship.
Well, I will say going out and socializing is also my least favorite part of life. But, yeah. But I don't need a game to make me feel guilty about that. That's a problem, is that if I played a game about going out and talking to people, I would feel bad that I wasn't doing it in real life, even if that's not really something that I consider a good time.
Yeah, they're stressful. The time moves too fast. I mean, in any Sims game, even talking about SimCity, the time is always moving. There's always that little bit of pressure, but at least you can pause it, take a breather, do a few things, build some stuff.
Yeah. You ever hear those people who... I worked at at EB Games for a couple years, and you ever hear those people who say, like, oh, why do you play sports games? Just go outside and play the sports. I'm like, when's the last time you did that?
Exactly. Talk loud for a person who just plays shooter games.
Yeah. Oh God, please don't go out and shoot people. Keep that in the game. Don't do a murder. Keep that in the game. Yes, don't do a murder. Oh, I guess we're done now.
Oh yeah, that was the end of the episode. Thanks for coming.
We should probably at least tell people how to... whatever, no one even listens to us anymore.
They're just they're just going off into the void.
But it's...
Hey, I listen to this podcast. I've always been our number one fan, and I still am.
I swear, you've listened to the show more than I have.
Yeah, I have. Well,
you remember the show more than I do.
True, but you listen to it longer.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because of the editing, you really do.
Which you would think means that I remember more of it.
You're not focusing on content, you're focusing on technicalities and details and stuff, right?
So, speaking of ending the episode, are there any final thoughts on SimCity?
I think, like we said earlier, this is a game that holds up. If you're going to go out and pick one because you've never played any of them, I stand by SimCity 2000 being a pretty good all-around game, because unlike in the first one, it'll actually highlight and tell you what some of the menus mean. It's a little bit more straightforward and easier to get through. You know, it holds your hand a little bit, but not as much as the modern games do. So get in there, make a city, and then you're all going to tell me you've already played it before. I know. So carry on.
Everyone's found a copy at a thrift store at some point.
Exactly. You all have it.
Yeah. But actually, one thing that's kind of cool is that way back in the day when I was playing SimCity Classic, I remember, I forget which class it was for, but we had to like design a map of something. So I actually found, I'm pretty sure it was, I don't remember if it was a built-in feature or if I found some way to just sort of do it. I can't remember anymore. I'm pretty sure it must have been just a built-in feature. But you can actually print your map from the game. So I actually designed the map for my assignment through SimCity and printed it on my dot matrix printer to present for the project.
How did you do?
I don't remember. I imagine I've always just been like a C student throughout all of school, so I'm pretty sure I just got a C. Right. It's a safe bet. If I don't remember, like, I would usually remember if I got good grades because it was such a rare event. Otherwise, otherwise it's safe assumption I got a C.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see, this game is good for you. You learn about politics, you learn about geography, it helps you with school assignments. There is no reason why we should not all be playing this game. Plus, hell, Mac, MS-DOS, Amiga, SNES, Sega Saturn, PlayStation. You can play this game on Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Windows Mobile. Like, get in there.
But you haven't lived until you've heard your SimCity city being printed on a dot matrix printer. I'm pretty sure some parts are so dark that it actually tore the page.
That's amazing.
You ever see that happen?
Yeah, if it just keeps on going, it gets kind of like wet-like. And if you don't have... My mom, she was a typesetter, you see, and a computer graphics artist. So we actually had the stacks of paper, and there's like, here's the paper you take to do this, and here's the paper you take to do this. But that dot matrix paper was so thin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So thin.
Yeah, it's like, you know those memes where it's like, describe how old you are? And Bill would be like, there's one recently about like, I talked to a guy on Blockbuster. I'm like, I had to like tear my own pieces of paper from perforations.
Yeah. I did it for my mom for work. I'd sit there for ages, just like, and I was so good at it because, you do the fold and the tear.
Yeah.
The fold and the tear. I've always been really good at perforated paper tearing. To this day, people are like, damn, you tore that so well. I'm like, oh, I know.
Yeah. People don't know how to do it.
No, it's true. Just like, you just follow it. Well, the lines are so tiny. I'm like, no. It's all in the fold, yo. You're good.
Anyways, you out there, you who is listening to my voice at this very moment, what do you think of SimCity? Because I know you've played it in some form or another, in one version or another, somehow. It spans decades, so I'm sure you've dabbled in it a little bit. So tell us what you think about SimCity. How great is it? There is no such thing as bad. It's just how great was it? How much has it influenced your life? Let us know angrily. You can email us at mail@classicgamersguild.com. You can talk to us on Facebook. We have both a page and a group. We are on Twitter at the CG Guild. We are on Instagram at CGG Podcast. We are also on Patreon if you would like to support the show financially. Throw us $1, maybe $2. For example, we have a new Patreon patron, Jason Jared. Thank you very much for your contribution. We really appreciate that. So be like Jason and help us out. All I need to do is raise $4,000 a month to quit my job. So I'm leaning heavily on you guys for that.
8,000 so I can quit mine too.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I work for myself. Damn it, 8,000 so I can add another $4,000 to my tally.
Help us get paid. I mean, you don't have to, but we would really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, until next time, thank you all very much for tuning in, and don't do a murder.